Welcome everyone to the very first episode of HoopsCrush. He is Brady Parks, aka Crushables, and I'm Eric Brandt, aka HoopsJock. We're very excited to do this podcast together. I've been watching Crushables on YouTube for a while now. I was really impressed with some of his knowledge on the NBA, and of course he does a lot of rebuilds and stuff. Why don't you plug your Crushables YouTube channel real quick?
Yeah, man, I've been doing YouTube since like 2016, back when I was in high school, and never really thought much of it, but it eventually became something that I kept doing, and obviously I've always wanted to dabble in stuff outside of just 2K, so this is an incredible opportunity. I'm extremely honored to be talking to someone like you at the moment.
Oh. And so where do you live again? In Kansas?
Yeah, I live in Kansas.
So why did you become a Blazer fan?
So I don't even remember exactly when I started getting into basketball, but I feel like one of the first games I watched was it was back when the Blazers still had like Wesley Matthews, Nick Batum. Like that's when I really started getting into basketball, and I started watching other rebuilders on 2K on YouTube. So that like really got me into it, and I feel like one of the first things I ever like really got like excited about was when Dame hit his, and I didn't see this live, but I think it was just like a flashback to it when he hit his game winner against the Rockets, which was, I was like, damn, that's crazy. So, and then my dad, also being a Blazers fan, helped out with that as well. Okay. So that is exactly why I became a Blazers fan. If I were to choose a different team, I mean, it would have been the Thunder, because I've been to like 4 Thunder games, 2 times when Portland played there. Though I was there for when they had Melo in Oklahoma City, and then I went another time. So I went twice. One time they won, one time they lost. And the one game I was at that was really cool was when Russ and Dame started talking smack to each other at the free throw line. So that was a fun game to be at.
Very cool. Well, if you like NBA rebuilds and stuff, you don't even have to like 2K. You can just like team building and being a GM and stuff like that. You do a great job with those videos, and it's always fun to see how you end up taking a team along the ride of a rebuild.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, I actually was impressed. Some of the first videos I watched, you were just like reacting to some Bleacher Report trade ideas and stuff, and I was impressed by your knowledge on some of the, not only players on other teams around the league, but also you're starting to show some knowledge of the salary cap and why trades didn't make sense for certain teams, and you were calling out Bleacher Report for trades not making sense, and I was like, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. This is cool.
Yeah, I think over the years in 2K, just like understanding contracts, because I'm trading for these guys and stuff like that, and then I mean 2K has been a big benefit. Obviously 2K isn't the greatest resource for that, but like I've learned things outside of that too.
Nice. Yeah, then I reached out because I was watching a video, and you said you were going to try to dabble into like NBA podcasts and do that kind of stuff. So I thought it'd be cool if we collab sometime, and fast forward like a year and a half later, and here we are, huh?
Yeah, I did a podcast by myself for a little bit, but the problem is like none of my real life friends really like basketball like that. So like,
okay.
It's hard to do. I feel like it's hard to do one by yourself. So I tried and I did it for a while, but it just didn't feel right. So, I mean, I didn't know if there'd ever be an opportunity like this, but here we are. So extremely happy to be talking to someone who actually likes basketball, because none of my friends really do.
Yeah, I've had that problem at several points in my life. Like work friends or, friends in general don't really care about the same sports that you do. And it's like, I want to talk about this with someone.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun on the show. We have some fun segments planned for future weeks. We won't get into them in our first episode, but we'll, of course, talk about anything topical in the NBA, and specifically for the Portland Trailblazers, which we'll dig into. We have a lot of stuff I want to ask you about for today's episode.
All right.
But yeah, we have some segments planned. We want to kind of not necessarily make it a formula show, but we do want to have some things fun things we do each episode, and we'll get to those in the future. But right now, I just want to know, was Dame your favorite Blazer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
He's the one that really got me into basketball. So it sucked seeing him go. I mean, when it first trade request first happened, it was horrible, man. But I don't know. Him getting traded didn't feel as bad, though. I think it's probably because I just accepted it at that point.
Yeah, it was almost 3 months later. So that kind of,
exactly.
at that point, I was just like, man, get this over with.
Yeah.
Can we please just move on?
Yeah.
But yeah, so you see that tweet. Whose tweet did you see first, and what was your first reaction to seeing Dame to Milwaukee?
The first tweet I saw was I was sitting upstairs, and the first tweet I saw was Sham's deleted tweet, actually, where he got traded to Toronto. I was like, Dame's going to Toronto. I was like, so I opened Twitter thinking he was going to Toronto, and then I saw a bunch of other tweets talking about Milwaukee, and I was like, I was shocked, man. I did not think Milwaukee had enough assets to pull off a Dame trade. Like, even people were kind of like mentioning Milwaukee. I was like, bro, they don't have enough. Like, let's be real. They don't have enough. But lo and behold, they found a way to pull it off. So shout out to Milwaukee.
Yeah, that was my first reaction too. It's like they only have one first to pick or to trade. We've been talking about that for months, and I had not heard. I had missed the interview with Drew Holiday, which he said he was now open to possibly playing longer and signing an extension. At the time of the trade, I was like, he said he was gonna retire in a year or two. Like, why would we? He's not gonna have as good a value. So yeah, it ended up being a lot better than my initial reaction, simply because Drew Holiday was worth a lot more because of that. And obviously there was a bidding war for him. Several playoff teams obviously needed his services, and Boston comes away pretty nice looking with adding Drew and Porzingis this summer. Their depth might not be as good as it's been in years past, but if they can stay healthy, man, they do have a team that could go up against Dame and Giannis.
Oh, for sure.
Bucks.
I like that starting five a lot.
Yeah. So are you hoping for that clash in the playoffs?
Yeah,
this year,
I mean, I think forever we wanted to see the Battle of LA when, Kawhi and Paul George first happened, and that never really happened. So I think.
Well, maybe you did. Screw LA.
No, Milwaukee and Boston. That would be a fun series if we ever do get to see it, because there's a lot of star power in that series if we ever got it. So that would be a fun one to watch.
So what was your reaction to the Drew Holiday trade?
I was pretty happy with the turn. I think overall Joe Cronin did a decent job. As much as I don't like the guy still, I think I give him his flowers for this trade. I think I liked it. I liked the return. I like Robert Williams. Obviously, the injury concerns are there. Malcolm Brogdon, we'll see what happens with him. I did not think he was going to play a game for us, but it looks like he might be. And then the two first. Now, the Warriors pick obviously may not be very good, but 2029, never know what can happen. Most likely Boston will be good, but, you never know.
Well, now that we have Milwaukee's 2029, we'll have our own back unless we traded it by then. And then Boston's 2029, that's the worst case is we have 28, 29, and 30, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Or if there's expansion, I guess it could be.
Oh, for sure.
Hopefully by then we have Vegas and Seattle.
I feel like we should, probably.
Yeah.
And then maybe Jody would sell the team if that happens.
So what did you think about do you think this team is like too good right now, or do you think they should have bottomed out more, or do you think it was good to add some guys that we've needed, like a Robert Williams, who is the type of defensive center that this roster that has been built around guards for over a decade now has needed to complement a backcourt that's a heavy scoring backcourt?
I see a world where we could have went either way. Like, I think it definitely would have been a better idea to try to bottom out a little bit more. But it seems like, I mean, you've kind of been hinting at it, that they seem like they want to win. They want to prove everyone that they're going to win or whatever. So I'm not surprised by them going for Aiden and then Robert Williams, which both are super young and obviously is the best in rotation we've had in a very, very long time. I don't expect both of them to be here throughout their contracts. I mean, it's kind of funny looking at it that Anthony Simons Sharp, Robert Williams, and DeAndre Ayton are all free agents in the same offseason, which is kind of interesting. So I don't know how that's going to pan out. So in the future, I feel like one of them will probably be moved. And then who knows with Anthony. But I feel like it probably would have been a better idea to bottom out. I mean, I feel like we really got to hope. I think Anthony Simon's going to be really good, though. So I could see a world where it could have made sense to put some more winning pieces around Anthony Simons, but we have Shaden and Scoot that we're trying to build around as well, who are both 19 and 20. So I don't know. It's we're kind of in a weird spot, I'll say. Like, I feel like we could be a terrible team this next season. I also feel like we could be a surprise team this season, which is weird. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, though.
Right. I mean, obviously, I think we're going to be one of the worst teams. But, like, if we had, like, a Kings from last year type run or, Memphis when they were still really young and shot up the seedings, like, it wouldn't shock me. Like, I mean, obviously, you have a bunch of players. I mean, Ayton averaged 18 in an offense where he didn't really see a ton of touches, so he could very easily be a plus 20 point per game scorer in this system. Jeremy Grant and Anthony were plus 20 point per game scorers. Scoot, we already hear Chauncey and players raving about his playmaking and passing ability. And if he's setting the table in a way that's complementing those players really well, and then you have some defensive pieces in Robert Williams and Matisse Thybulle, and some depth at guard. If you keep Brogdon, you're pretty deep. You have like an 8-9 man rotation that you can really count on if everyone's healthy. So like I wouldn't be surprised if this team just started winning a bunch of games all of a sudden and finds himself in the mix for not only the playoff race but possibly like one of those home court advantage spots.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely absolutely agree with that. The depth on this team is a lot better than it feels like this is the best team that Dame could have ever played on if we had him with all these pieces, and we're already giving that to Scoot, so it's pretty interesting. And I think you could kind of I wouldn't say this for like Scoot and Sharp right now, but like the potential is there for them to obviously be like a 20 point per game score one day. So like if you look at this roster, pretty much everybody technically in theory could be 20. Obviously that's not going to happen, but you could all five of the guys that might be starting, Sharp may not start, but could all technically average 20 eventually. I'm not saying Scoot and Sharp will do it right away, but Ayton, if he got a lot of touches, he could do it. Grant obviously did it last year, and Simons, I expect him to do it this year anyway. So yeah, it's an interesting team we got on our hands right now. Absolutely.
So would you start the three guards, or would you start Thybulle, or how are you looking at it?
I personally would probably start Sharp at the three. Someone just sent in the group chat that they listed Sharp at 6'6", so I don't know. I guess he's small forward size. I don't know. But I don't
That's
know.
obviously with shoes on.
Yeah. But I think I'd play him at the three. I think obviously Scoot, Sharp, Simons are the most important three guys for the rest of our future. So I know they're going to start Thybulle. I have a gut feeling that's what's going to happen. So
yeah, I agree. That's what I'm thinking too. It's not that it's bad necessarily, but in my opinion, you don't want to tank necessarily this year. I mean, it makes sense at the very end of the season if you need to lose a couple games to get a better spot, but I don't want to like hold anyone back this year. We saw a couple years ago when Anthony, after Dame had his surgery, starts and is the lead guard and just really blossomed, and then the team kind of was like, we need you to sit and not be so good.
Yeah.
and that was, I mean, it was probably the right move to try and get as high of a lottery pick as possible, but this season I just feel like you don't want to limit how anyone can be. So if you lose a bunch of games but they're all playing well and trying their best, that's fine. That's not necessarily tanking, in my opinion. That's just you're just not a winning team yet.
Yeah.
And I just want to see him build towards that, similar to Dame's rookie year, where they kind of flirted with the playoffs for about till the All-Star break, and then kind of fell off, and then they pulled the chute and lost a bunch of games at the end so they could keep their draft pick. Yeah, so I could see something like that, but I really just want Scoot and Sharp in particular to get as many minutes as possible and just learn, because you saw once Sharp got some responsibility on the court last year, in terms of running the offense, he just looked like a completely different player. And so I don't want to like then go back to him being a spot up shooter, even though he was good as a spot up shooter last year. You don't want to like just put him back in that role. I think once he shows you that he can handle it, just keep giving him more responsibility and keep lengthening that leash until he proves he can't handle it. And I would take that same approach with Scoot and just give him the full offense and let him go. And if he's struggling, maybe dial it back, or maybe that's when Brogdon can step in and give some minutes and help him out a little bit. But I just want to develop these guys and see what they can do and not hold them back.
Absolutely. Tori kind of said it yesterday. This is exactly how I saw it too, where I could see us being like the Jazz maybe to start the season, where things are just like clicking on all cylinders. I mean, that's kind of how we started last year too. I could see that kind of happening. Will it continue? I'm not sure about that, but maybe it won't even start that way. I mean, obviously, it remains to be seen, but should be a fun team to watch regardless. Super athletic, super fun. I'm excited. I'm
a huge Anthony Simons guy. I don't know if you are too, but I think there's going to be multiple teams that are going to regret that they could have possibly gotten him for not that much this summer.
I absolutely
agree. If that was the case. And I just feel like there's so many teams that, well, a lot of the teams that were in on Dame, I feel like they could have gotten Anthony for much less.
Yep.
And that not that he's better than Dame or anything, but like long term it would have fit their teams better, like a Brooklyn or Miami or Toronto. I just think that those would have been good fits for him. Boston as well. Or Philly, he'd be great with Embiid. There's so many teams that I don't understand why they didn't go after him. And people compare him to Poole and Hero a lot, but he's like a different type of player than those guys. And I think he would have fit in that lead guard role better than those guys are.
Someone told me that Simons was the worst contract in the league, so
yeah,
people have their own opinions on him. I absolutely agree with you. We've seen what he's been able to do with like the opportunity. It really sucks because, I mean, we just have like two younger guards behind, like obviously right now behind him.
Yeah.
So obviously usually the franchises usually lean towards the younger guy. So I do wonder how long Simon stays here, but I think he's going to be phenomenal. I think his ceiling this year is through the roof. I expect really big things from Simons this year with a full opportunity with Dame gone. And I mean, Dame even said it himself in his letter that he sees it in him, and I see it too. So
the Inferno. Even though he hates being called that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, what did you think of Media Day? Was there a particular interview that stood out, or a comment that stood out to you?
Shaedon Sharp is interview. He's always a funny interviewer. Yeah, Shaedon Sharp stood out to me. I noticed that Joe Cronin thinking Dame I think he handled it as best as he could. Obviously, he didn't want to address the Chris Haynes article too much. He did get asked about it, and he just said, I just thought it was a bad idea. And
one part of it.
Yeah, one part of it, basically. And I think that was Fentress that asked him that, if I'm not mistaken. And also, Chauncey just saying, I kind of understood what they were saying, but it almost felt like they were blaming that they couldn't run his type of offense because of Damian Lillard. Now there's not as much pressure. You could just figure out who is the guy. I could see him hinting at that a lot. So that kind of stood out to me as well. And then DeAndre Ayton. Also, a lot of people are pointing out that he said, I didn't notice it when I first watched it, but he said that Phoenix granted his wishes, so people were kind of suspecting he had requested a trade, which could make some sense. Obviously, he's never been really happy there, it seems like. Apparently, he unfollowed Devin Booker right away as soon as he got traded. So
and KD.
Oh, and KD too? Yeah, so I think Ayton, he seems happy to be here. Hopefully, he can turn into something for us dominating is what we need to see.
Or what do you think of that nickname?
It's a cool nickname, but yeah, him calling himself that is kind of funny. It's funny.
I know, it's like, it's just weird to like, I mean, I know like as a YouTuber you call yourself Crushables or whatever on your show, and you know, I call myself HoopsJock sometimes, like, but I don't know, it just the way he says it, it's just kind of weird to have him just keep saying it.
Plus his nickname is like, it's got some meaning to it, like you got to go dominate if you're actually going to call yourself that. So
right. Well, hopefully he does. So backtracking to Sharp, he made the comment that he personally didn't care if he came off the bench or started.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one, do you think that comment was truthful? And two, what do you think that's like a good mindset, or do you not like to have someone that's not like I want to start at all costs?
Sharp is hard to read in my opinion. I don't have a problem with it because I feel like it's just like him being a team player. Obviously, when he has the opportunity, the last thing we want to see is him being all nonchalant and not really feeling like he cares enough. But I don't really have a problem with him saying that he doesn't care what he needs to do. I feel like that's the team approach, the political way to say things. Maybe he feels differently behind the scenes. I'm sure he does ultimately. But he also seems like just a super chill dude. So I could see a world where he actually genuinely feels like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was just he knows that that's what like the coaches want to hear from him,
yeah,
you know, and I think it'll play out like they said in practice, and it'll be cool to hear if he's like stepping up. And we're already hearing whispers about it. They're 1 day into training camp now that he played really well, and it's going to be hard for Billups not to start him, and that Billups made some comments afterwards that sound like he might be possibly leaning towards starting him, which is surprising considering both you and I both just said that we think Thibault will probably get the nod. But yeah, it's like I think last year they were really hoping that Nasir Little stepped up and just took that starting small forward job and never looked back. And unfortunately for Nas, he just was not in a good place health-wise with that, coming off that same core surgery that both Gary Payton II and Damian Lillard had. And I don't think he was right. And he tried to play through it, unlike Gary Payton. But I just, unfortunately for him, he just fell out of favor after that and never really got on track last year. He had some good moments shooting the ball and stuff like that, but defensively he just did not look like his normal athletic self. And I think they're hoping that Sharp this year just runs away with it and is so good that you can't possibly even think about preventing him from playing more and starting.
Yeah, if that's the case, I think we're in a good spot too, that he's showing that behind the scenes and working as much as he can to get that spot, because I think it'd be pretty easy right now to give it to Thibault because the defense, but if Sharp can show that he is ready and wants it, I think that is a great sign for us as Blazers fans.
Yeah, and obviously Sharp in Summer League, it was kind of a mixed bag, in my opinion. He showed some moments where it's like, okay, he's got this really high talent level, and he's going to be good no matter what. But he also showed some moments where it seemed like he didn't really care. He was sloppy with the ball, took some bad shots, and didn't really seem engaged in the offense that much, and not engaged on defense either. So when I see players like that, it doesn't necessarily bother me at the time, but what I want to see is now heading into training camp that you took those months in between Summer League and now to make sure that you learned something from that experience instead of just like, whatever, it was Summer League, you know?
Right.
Like, no, I need to fix this because I can't be looking like this even if it is Summer League. So I'm hoping that he has that kind of attitude, and if he's playing well in practice, if we start to hear more than just 1 day, I think that'll be a really good sign that he did take it seriously and was not satisfied with just mailing it in during summer league.
Absolutely.
And then we had a lot of injuries. The main one was Scoot being injured during summer league, so it was unfortunate we didn't get to see him more than a little bit of the first game.
2 years in a row. Yeah, 2 years in a row where Sharp gets hurt and then Scoot gets hurt. I don't know why.
So disappointing.
Yeah.
And then we'd lose that first game. We could have won the summer league championship again.
Bro, the way that game ended was insane too. That was a lob for no reason.
We could have just held it.
Then Jabari hits a half court shot or whatever it was, bro. It was just, or was it half court, or they just like threw it full? I don't remember. It was
he threw it. It was just past half court, but it was a long shot.
Yeah, man.
So now going back to the Damian Lillard comments about seemingly everyone seeming more free. I don't know, freer to go about things. Like, I feel like the pressure got taken off.
Absolutely.
Now that Dame's not there, like, because Joe now doesn't have to make a trade to win now, and
absolutely.
he can make moves, and he's not questioned like, well, how is this going to lead to them? And Chauncey can. I personally feel like Chauncey's kind of pushing off the blame for not being that great his first 2 years. But, like, maybe he feels comfortable doing stuff with the offense and defense that he did not feel comfortable with doing with Dame on the roster, or he knew, you had to run a lot of pick and roll with Dame or whatever the case may be. I would love to see a free-flowing, fast-tempo offense. I think that would be really cool, but I don't necessarily think they couldn't have done that with Dame, or like it's like going to be different just because Dame was there. I think they could have implemented some of that stuff with Dame, and it would have been fine. But they've had some like athletic guys off the bench too in the past, not necessarily veterans, but when you have a lot of young athletic guys, I think you should get out and run a lot more.
Absolutely.
So it's good to hear them say that. But yeah, I do feel like both Joe and Chauncey kind of threw Dame under the bus and kind of used that to be like, oh no, he's gone now. Now we can do what we want to do,
Couldn't agree more. I've started to notice people come around because, like, I feel like rebuilding is like, I don't know, like people love it, I guess. Like people like, I feel like when I look on Twitter, people like, oh yeah, that was a great move. You need to start rebuilding. But I've started to notice, I saw a few people say that like, if you're rebuilding, you ultimately failed, right? So like, obviously, when you're a GM and you go into rebuild mode, you get a lot more years to prove. Because, like, you can't really fire someone well, you can technically, but, like, it feels like you got to give the GM time, right, during the rebuild. Because you don't want to just, like, hire multiple GMs during a rebuild because then they could pivot a different way. There's no pressure anymore to try to build around Dame. That cloud isn't over them anymore, so they don't have to worry about making a trade for whoever to get Dame help or, answering the questions on how this, why did you trade Josh Hart if you're trying to get better? And, oh, trust me, I'm going to push all my chips. Like, he doesn't have to do that anymore. So, like, obviously that cloud is gone. Joe Cronin has bought himself. I mean, he probably had time anyway, but he bought himself some more time. Rebuilding is just the easier way to do things if you're trying to keep your job, in my opinion. And as far as, obviously Chauncey, to me, I mean, we started the season really good last year. Then the injuries happened. And, like, I don't know. Chauncey, to me, I don't even know. So far, he doesn't feel like a good coach to me, but we have tanked the last 2 years. I think we've had him for like 3 years now, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's been 3 years.
This will be a third season.
Okay, that's what I thought, because we had him with Norman. Yeah, because we had Norman. Then we tanked that year. That's right. So, yeah. I don't know. I feel like Chauncey's not a great coach, but hey, maybe he's finally got his guys, right, that he can go out there and be a good coach this year. Although the expectations aren't very high, so what is the definition of Chauncey being a good coach? So I don't know.
Right. I feel like last year they were saying the same stuff though, like, oh, we have our guys this year. We didn't have them at the beginning of last year, but now we got rid of a bunch of the guys who weren't Chauncey guys, and now we have them, and then then the season still fizzled out.
I'm surprised they haven't brought back Winslow, to be honest.
Yeah. He is not on the roster. It's still a possibility, I guess.
It definitely, for sure.
But I think Cronin in particular, I think because the easiest part is to get to where he's gotten. It's like you trade everything away, you tear it down, and he's even admitted this, that tearing it down is the easy part. It's building it back up, and not just building it to a good, building it to great. And it's much harder to make that jump from good to great than it is to tear it down and be good again.
Absolutely.
So he's definitely put himself in that position where, like you were mentioning, he's bought himself some time now to kind of maneuver in that space where you don't have to be good, but if you are good, you look really good, right?
Yeah.
Because, oh, look, you traded Dame and you're fighting for the playoffs. Like, Dame didn't even make the playoffs the last 2 years. We'll hear that narrative and stuff. So I think he's put himself in that position. As far as Chauncey goes in coaching, it's so weird with me with Chauncey because he came in and he's still saying it at the press conference yesterday. He still says all the right things. Like, he knows what to do. He knows how to do it. He knows what the best approach is. He knows how to handle players. I think that's one of his best qualities.
For sure.
He can articulate all of that in a press conference or to players, I guess, trying to coach them. It's just so far he hasn't been able to get that to translate and look the way he wants it to look on the court. So maybe since he has mostly young guys now, he can finally get that to happen. But until he actually shows it, because there's been like many examples of really smart, some of the smartest, highest IQ basketball players of all time flailed as coaches because they just it's so easy for them. It's hard to like teach your mentality and teach like reaction speed and just thinking the game on the court, because you can't just like hold their hand out on the court. So it does worry me that everything Chauncey's saying is just never going to translate for him onto the court. Does that worry you as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, ever since he's came in from day one, I agree. He said all the right things. We need to move the ball more, play tougher defense, and just says all the right things that was a problem when we had Stotts. And, I mean, we'll do it for maybe just like a little bit, but then it just like falls off really quickly and things just go like, I don't know, they just go south. So I am worried about Chauncey going forward, but, I mean, we got to ride with him for now. So hopefully... if he could just show promise, that's the main thing we want to see. We're not trying to win a championship this year necessarily, but just like things he should be adjusting that needs to be taken care of, basically.
It's so weird. Like everyone, like Joe said it yesterday. All the players say it. Like players not even on his team come up to him every game. They all swear by this guy, and like everyone loves him, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It kind of it's obviously not this magnified, but I don't know if you watch college football at all, but there's like this craze around the Colorado football program right now.
Deion
Sanders, right? And like Chauncey had a little bit of that like mystique and stuff like that when he came in. I mean, obviously he's not prime time like that flashy, but
right.
Like he had that kind of charisma and that kind of I don't know, character that like a lot of players looked up to and looked to him as like a mentor for advice and stuff like that. So it's weird that like even Dame on his way out, said what a great coach Chauncey's been the last couple of years, and like everyone says he's such a great guy to be around and just learn from, but it just hasn't worked out on the court. It's just so weird.
Yeah, he seems like a cool dude. Seems like a guy that he gets along with a lot of people, as we know. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how things go this year. Now that he has the ability to not have to worry about Dame or just do whatever he wants now. Like, this is a clean slate in my opinion, because we don't even know what is going. We don't even know who's gonna be handling the ball the most. It's gonna be Simon. It's gonna be Scoot. Is Scoot gonna be playing off ball more? Like, there's gonna be a lot of interesting things to watch. So Chauncey, I feel like, gets a clean slate with Dame gone at the end of the day.
It'll be interesting to see what he does with the guards if he has them more at the point of attack on defense this
That
year.
too, absolutely.
Because that's one thing that's I think been tough for this team to overcome defensively for going back to all the Stotts years and basically until 2015 when we lost Wes and Batum and stuff. The ability for a team to play a good team defense when you're trying to hide the guards down in the corners, it just, to me, when you're trying to hide both of them, it's too hard to overcome. And then often your best rim protectors then get matched up on the perimeter, and then Anthony and Dame then have to sag down and be rim protectors and try to guard bigger players. And, we've seen flashes of Dame stopping players in the post and stuff. But short of that, I don't think it's the best way to build your defense, to where you're either hiding them or you're putting them in positions where they're having to guard much bigger players in bad situations trying to help. So I want to see. That was like one of the first things Chauncey said was like, I want a team that scraps on defense. And I haven't seen that in the first couple of years. And I feel like when you hide players, you can't scrap. You're not going to be a scrappy team. So I want to see him pressure the ball more, whether that's trapping or hard hedging screens, or just like, picking up right at half court or something. I just want to see more just forcing the ball out of some players' hands. We saw one game last year against Luka where he had like his worst game of the season, and we were all over him defensively, just double teaming him and not letting him get any kind of downhill movement off the dribble. And that was a really fun game to watch. And then we don't really see that against other players.
Is that the game
similar skill set
that Dinwiddie killed us? Is that the same game?
No, we actually won that game.
Okay.
It was we were playing a back-to-back in Portland, the same team twice against Dallas, and he didn't play the second game, but the first game we shut him down.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm remembering it wrong, but
you're thinking about the earlier season game in Dallas when Dinwiddie made a bunch of threes.
Yeah, he absolutely lit us up that night. But yeah, I want to see Scoot. I want to see if he can be that good. I mean, he's a rookie, so I'm not expecting a lot. But like, I would love to see him be able to challenge whatever guard that the other team has. I mean, I know we've always put Grant on guards, but I feel like if we gave Scoot an opportunity, Sharp an opportunity if he's starting, like, I would love to see those guys be able to challenge some of the team's best players, or maybe the team's best guards, not necessarily go guard like Paul George or whatever, but like guard their best guard, or like a De'Aaron Fox or something.
But that's what Sharp did at the end of last season, and that, I mean, he struggled with it a bit, but it was still impressive to see him have that mindset. Like, I told coach I want to guard the best player or whatever, and coaches were like, I'm gonna give him that, And so, yeah, I mean, he's not going to shut down players as a rookie, but you do want to see that mindset where he wants to earn it and play good on the defensive end. And I think that would bode well for the future of all of them. And I think that's when we mentioned earlier all the guys who could possibly average 20 points per game. I think when you have that kind of balance on offense, you're not reliant on one person to score so much or to break down a defense because you have multiple creators. I do think that that does allow you to put more effort on defense, or at least it should. And there's not that excuse of, oh, I'm averaging 33 points per game. I can't play defense and carry every single ounce of the offensive load as well. So that is one good thing about having a balanced lineup offensively, I think, is it should allow all these guys to perform their best on defense.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, I mean, I feel like if we're starting Scoot, Sharp, Simons, Ayton, Grant, I mean, all 5 of them could technically put up 20 a night. So I think we're going to be pretty balanced in the offense. So as you said, should lead to hopefully more effort on defense.
And then, so what did you think of what Scoot had to say yesterday?
I mean, I liked the question where, they asked him about, or comparing. The main thing I took away from it is, obviously, since he's been drafted, he was kind of put in an awkward spot because obviously the city loves Damian Lillard, and it's not his fault that he got drafted here. I mean, he's taken it great, by the way. I mean, as a rookie, he's been really, really good at taking everything that's happened with this situation. He's been super mature about it. So I feel like we have a really good leader on our hands going forward. But I do love that when they asked him, I forgot exactly what they asked, but it was something about, how do you feel about filling the shoes of Dame or something like that? And he's like, I'm Scoot Henderson. So I liked that answer a lot.
He loves himself some Scoot, which is not. It's funny because if you just watch that, it seems like he's kind of full of himself. But every great player in league history outside of maybe Tim Duncan was very cocky and confident in their abilities. So I do think that's a characteristic of a player who is destined to be a star and have that it factor. And he's so charismatic and just such a fun guy. I do think he's going to be a breath of fresh air. And I just want to say this: Dame's my guy. I did not want him to be traded. I thought he deserved to either be here as long as he wanted to be, or that we owed it to him for all he's done for the franchise to, treat him with a little more respect this summer and maybe take a lesser deal to get him to where he wants to go. I totally understand if you think that's stupid and completely disagree and that you have to do what's best for the franchise. I get it. I just think Dame is the one example in pretty much Blazer history that I think was owed that latitude, and I don't think he got it fully. But that being said, Scoot Henderson, it has nothing to do with that. It's not his fault or anything like that. So I'm glad that's kind of his mindset or whatever. I'm my own person. I don't care about what happened with Dame. I'm sure he likes Dame. He's had conversations with him in the past. And I'm sure Dame will, if he hasn't already reached out to him, I'm sure at some point Dame will realize that he can't take it out on him and he'll go back to giving him advice. But I just want to make that clear that Scoot Henderson, I am super excited about Scoot Henderson. It has nothing to do with my feelings on Dame, and I think the sky is the limit for this guy, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being not as good as Dame. That would probably surprise me because he'd be a top 75 player of all time in that case, but multiple time all-star, that would not shock me at all.
I mean, I think you're allowed, including myself, that's how I felt. I think we're allowed to be upset about what happened with the Damian Lillard situation and be excited about Scoot. I don't think there's some people that felt oh, why are you so mad? We have Scoot now, the future's bright. But I mean, if you really read exactly what happened and how things went down, it was kind of a nasty divorce between Dame and the Blazers. And for someone that, I mean, if Dame was any other star, he would have requested a trade a long time ago. So he'd put up with a lot. And the fact of the matter is he did not get treated the best on his way out. So it definitely sucked seeing it in that way. But I feel good that we ultimately sent him to play with one of the best players in the NBA in Giannis. That made me feel so good about that whole situation because when I first thought he got sent to Toronto, it's fine, but him going to Milwaukee is just another different level with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they still have Middleton, Brook Lopez. I am like genuinely so happy for him, and I already root for the Bucks anyway. Like I'm not, I've always been a big fan of small market teams when they won the championship. Super happy for them. Always been a big fan of Giannis. So for me, it's super easy to go root for Dame in Milwaukee. Like I consider myself now a part-time Bucks fan at this point. So
yeah, obviously we'll probably keep an eye on that on this show when we talk about NBA topics and stuff like that. And yeah, we could even maybe have a segment. And by the way, if you are watching this and you have some ideas of some things you want Brady and I to talk about, or ideas for a segment in the future, or if you want to help me out with, I have some segments planned, but I could use someone who gives us, a few ideas or questions for some segments. If you're interested in that, you can hit either of us up on Twitter, on X or whatever it's called. And then, or Discord. I'm always on Discord or whatever. So feel free to hit me up. I don't know if you have too many fans to respond to them all or not.
Not at the moment.
Yeah, we're just going to keep it fun on the show, and so if you have ideas, more than happy to hear them.
Absolutely. We're open to anything. And one quick thing I do want to end off with here is, the whole Miami thing, and I totally understood why he wanted to go to Miami and why his agent did what he did. But we've always thought, and I don't want to give this man too much credit, but we've always thought Joe Cronin had no backbone, right? And he didn't submit to Miami at all. And it was kind of out of pettiness, right? So I'm not trying to give him like too much credit. But it always felt like he was going to send him to Miami eventually, and he was just posturing. But he did something different, which I was really surprised by. I was shocked. I thought for sure it was going to Miami. And obviously this thing lasted like 3 months. So I'm not afraid to admit this, and I'll say this right now, that if he got sent to Miami, that would have been great. But for me, it would have been a lot harder to root for him. Or I would have rooted for him, but I think it would have hurt a lot more seeing him in a Heat uniform than right now in a Bucks uniform, because of just all the drama that unfolded throughout the summer. That's how I personally feel, and I think a lot of it has to do with what some of my, and I'm not saying all Miami fans are like this, but Twitter would recommend me some tweets of, negative tweets about Dame and his trade value, how he's not worth anything and blah, blah, blah. And some Miami fans were saying that he's not worth anything or whatever. And so I don't know. I just always soured on Miami and just whatever. I don't know. The whole thing was just dramatic. So I know it would have been great for him to go to Miami. I know that. I'm not going to disregard that, but I'm happy he didn't go there. Selfishly, I'm happy, which is kind of weird to admit, but I just think rooting for him in Milwaukee is going to be so much easier for me. Seeing him in a Bucks jersey didn't even hurt that bad. I feel like seeing him in a Miami jersey would have hurt a lot worse. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, people told me to go root for Miami and go be a Heat fan or go move to Miami or whatever. Okay, but I had a different experience than pretty much every Blazer fan this summer. And I'm not even sure how it happened or why it happened or whatever, because I wasn't ever trying to placate the Miami fans in particular. But I ended up meeting a lot of really nice Miami fans and people, and had all kinds of people DMing me, went on a show,
you traitor,
a Miami podcast, and just told give the history of what led up to Dame requesting a trade. It wasn't very opinion based. It was all just, I was just giving people info on what happened the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then everyone's like, "Oh, I'm a traitor." Yeah, I'm a sellout or whatever. I didn't really understand that part, because I was just I said, rehashing what had happened to lead up to Dame wanting out. And a lot of fans of other teams don't know that. And every fan base has horrible fans, including Miami. There were some people, like you said, that were just all over social media, just saying all kinds of stupid stuff and trying to or agitate Blazer fans and stuff. But I didn't really get a lot of that personally. And I had a lot of DMs and stuff from Miami fans that were actually super nice to me. So I don't have any ill will towards Miami fans. I actually feel kind of bad for some of them that I had talked to for a while that they ended up with nothing, and now Milwaukee and Boston look clearly above any other team, including the Heat. But yeah, like I don't know. There was that, Drew Star on on Twitter. Yeah. So he would like listen to Blazers Uprise and all the different Portland-based shows, and aggregate it and just post comments or clips from those shows. And I actually started talking to him through DMs, and he was super nice to me and stuff. So like I don't know, I never had any problem with any Miami fans, so I wasn't like, screw Miami, they can't have Dame, like, because like I also, like I said earlier, I feel like Dame had kind of earned the respect to at least consider where he wanted to go the most.
Absolutely. I think
I don't agree with the way Goodwin.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with the way Goodwin went about it. I think that was a huge problem. I don't blame him for wanting to do it. Like, I don't know. Like, it's tough because I understood he was trying to get his client to where he wanted to go. But, I mean, you kind of try to ruin all the leverage in the world for Portland, so he had to know that wasn't going to go great. I don't know. Obviously, he's trying what he needed to do. But, yeah, it's just... Yeah, I'm glad you had a great experience. I feel like I'm probably mainly just being, I don't know, like, I'm sure they're not all like that, like I said. I don't feel like they're all like that. It just felt like more often than not, I would see, like, negative stuff more than positive stuff about Dame. That's kind of how it was for me, I feel like.
Remember a couple years ago when we traded for Norman Powell?
Yeah.
And there was this huge thing. I don't know if you were that close on social media or whatever, but there was the whole like joining of fan bases between Portland and Toronto because they got a fan favorite here in Gary Trent, and we got a fan favorite from them and Norm Powell. And like, so we had like Toronto fans rooting for the Blazers because Norm was starting and playing, and then you got some like Portland fans that were interested in Toronto. And that lasted like the rest of that season pretty much, and then it became like hostile again, and there was a lot of Toronto fans.
Probably because of all the OG and Siakam rumors, huh?
Yeah,
I bet
probably.
That's what it was.
But yeah, then they, Masai and a lot of their fans seem to overvalue.
Oh, absolutely. Every time I do a Raptors video, I know I'm doing something wrong. I know I'm doing something wrong.
You can trade OG for like 18 first-round picks. And
it won't be
like,
enough.
It
won't be enough. He'll comment. Someone comment down below, like, that's not enough.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I've met several like really cool Toronto fans and media people. So like it's been that way with like every team. Like there's a lot of really cool people covering the team, and there's a lot of really nice and cool fans, and then every fan base has those people who are just ridiculous and including the Blazers.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch of Blazers fans that I'm
sure
most people
it's so weird because I didn't really have any part of that this summer. Like if it would have been the Lakers or something that he got traded to, yes.
Oh, that would have been even worse. Like if there's one team that I don't like, it's probably the Lakers.
Yeah. But yeah, like I don't know. I kind of wanted Dame to be happy and stuff, and I realized that he's going to be happy in Milwaukee. Like as soon as they start playing and winning games, Dame's going to be like, "Wow, this is great."
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's by far the best team he's ever been on, and just playing next to a guy like Giannis is going to open up or make things so much easier for Dame. But yeah, how do you think Milwaukee is going to win it all this year? Or
fear the deer, baby. They're going all the way.
all the way.
No, I think
they're going to beat the Blazers in the finals.
Yeah, exactly. Dame is going to get to the finals and have to go through his old team to win the championship, and we're going to stop him in his tracks. No, I think Milwaukee. For right now, with who knows what's happening in Philadelphia, I think the clear favorites in the East are either Milwaukee or Boston. Both of them have depth questions, I will say. Both of them, their depth could. I like Milwaukee's depth maybe a little bit better. Boston scares me because of like Kristaps' injury, or that's one thing that kind of scares me. But overall, those are the two teams I'm watching in the East that should be the clear favorites out there. To go all the way, and I am heavily rooting for Milwaukee to do it with Dame and Giannis.
Yep. So how easy is it for you to get to games? You mentioned you've gone to OKC 4 times.
Yeah, they're like at Oklahoma City. Their arena is like it used to be Chesapeake. I forget what it's called now, but it's like 2. I want to say 2, or maybe it's 3 hours away from me. I think it's a 3-hour drive. But I've gone to see. I've seen the Thunder play the Spurs. That was the first game I ever went to, and in that game, that's when Kawhi was still on the Spurs, and Greg Popovich rested like everybody, so like I didn't even see anybody play. I forgot who was still on the Thunder at that time. I think it was Russell Westbrook. I don't think I was there when I don't think Kevin Durant was still there though. And then I've seen them play the Raptors as well. And then the next two were the Blazers, where one time they won and one time they lost. The one time they won, I believe, is when Dame hit a like dagger shot in the corner, if I'm not mistaken. But it's been really fun. And Oklahoma City fans as well. When I've gone in rocking Blazer stuff, they're pretty nice. I haven't had a bad experience at all.
Nice. So you should go to the Bucks game.
OKC
Bucks.
I probably should if I can. That should be a fun one. I definitely.
Tickets are already like insane because they're only playing in Portland once, so they'd only play in OKC once. But it wouldn't be Dame's return to Portland there, so you could get tickets for a normal price probably.
Yeah.
Whereas, it's. I think we're talking like $300 or $400 for the top row already. So I can't imagine once it gets closer to that game how expensive those tickets are going to be.
Yeah,
I think that might be the one game I go to this year because I don't want to go to too many games. But I'm probably going to go to that one.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world to go to that game. Should have a good tribute video. He should obviously be cheered on. Hopefully no one's booing. I don't think they will. Hopefully not. I think everybody kind of realizes that Dame is a legend around here, so but I know there were some people that didn't like him because of everything that was going down, but I hope that ship has sailed for most people at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I hope people realize you can separate not wanting to trade Dame but also being excited for the future.
Exactly. That's how I felt.
And hopeful, yeah.
Because I was in denial about it for a while. Even when we re-signed Jeremy Grant, I was like, okay, Dame is staying. Even though this roster may make no sense at all, Dame is staying here, and that's all that matters. And obviously that did not go as planned.
Yeah. So I do want to get your answer to a question before we go here.
Okay.
What the heck would you do? Have you rebuilt the 76ers recently on your channel?
No, I've been avoiding it.
What would you do if you were thrust into that position as GM of the 76ers?
Yeah, I've been avoiding doing that video because I've been curious to see what's going to happen with James Harden and the 76ers. And the recent thing I saw today is that he plans on reporting to camp to make it, make the 76ers uncomfortable as possible.
Yeah.
So... Bro, I mean...
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, he's going to show up in a fat suit or... I don't know, man. I'm going to see what happens, and then eventually I'm getting down to the wire in the last few teams I got to do from when the game released. I'm not sure what I would do, to be honest, because I obviously could abuse the 2K trade finder, do whatever I want with Harden, but I tend to try to stay in the realistic ballpark for the most part because that's just the way I like to do things. So trading Harden realistically right now, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I would do, especially if you're trying to keep Embiid happy. It's tough, man. That whole situation is a mess. I cannot wait to see what the results are going to be of that.
Well, that's one thing I really appreciate and admire about your channel is that it is you I mean it's impossible to keep it fully realistic, but you do a great job of like at least trying to keep it on the rails. You see other rebuilds and it's like, oh, you're gonna trade Dame for Giannis instead of pairing him with Giannis. We're getting Giannis somehow, or like, you know, it makes no sense, and it's stuff that would never in a million years happen. Or you're not getting like 8 firsts for Myers Leonard in a trade or something. You know?
Absolutely. That's the way I prefer to do things.
So yeah, it's cool that you try to keep it somewhat realistic, and that's how I am too.
Yeah.
So do you ever do like franchise modes or play 2K that much, or do you just do the rebuild?
I don't play 2K outside of just doing rebuilds, really. That's it. I buy the game to do the content. That's it. I do not spend spare time playing 2K at all, as funny as that sounds.
So do you like suck at it?
Yeah, I'm pretty bad at it. I don't think I'm that great.
That's so funny.
I feel like I could beat my friends, but I feel like if you put me against someone that like probably knows what they're doing, I'm probably going to lose. Especially last year, it felt like the shot meter was so, I don't know. I was terrible last year. This year it's a little bit different. I feel a little bit better. I only play though when I jump in, and that's not, I don't do it every video. I only do it sometimes.
Yeah. I feel like it's like reverse hustling someone. Like you, people show up expecting you to be awesome, and then you're just like, "Who is this guy?"
Nope,
like, he's terrible.
I'm just in there in the simulation, man. That's all I'm doing usually.
Well, that was always my funnest. I know you do, or you did stuff with Madden too, right?
Yeah. That life is crazy right now, so it's hard for me to do Madden rebuilds all the time right now, but.
Yes, that was always my thing when I got those games. I just played franchise mode, and I really didn't care. I played the games. Well, football I did. It was a lot easier football because there's only, at the time, 16 games versus 82 game season.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you could switch it to play each team once, so there was like 29 games or whatever. It makes it a little easier. But yeah, I always just liked being a GM and just spending way too many hours in the trade finder and trying to accumulate every draft pick in a draft coming up, so you had like every pick. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I found fun. But like as I got older, yeah, I leaned much more towards more realistic. How could they actually fix this without it being like, oh, we just acquired 8 All-Stars.
And I know some people do it that way, but that's never the way I like to do things. I have done it before like that when I first started, but I mean, I don't know when I started to like gravitate towards more realistic, but I feel like I've been doing that for years, and I'm happy doing it that way. I think it makes me, it motivates me to do it a lot more than just go abuse the trade system that's like broken.
And obviously you're doing something right with how many
yeah, I think so.
subscribers you have.
Yeah.
Did you hit 40K or
close? We're at 40K, so
congratulations.
Thank you, man.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
It's really cool. All right, so do you have anything else for this episode? Anything else you want to talk about that's happening around the NBA?
I don't think so. I'm excited to see what Harden does. Maybe we'll hear some news about that tomorrow. But I don't have anything else really that I'm looking forward to yet, but I'm sure things will come up.
Hopefully, there's already been a few injuries around the league. Hopefully, a lot of the stars can stay healthy, because that has been something that's plagued the last few seasons is stars getting hurt and stuff. You'd never like to see seasons get derailed or end because of injuries. So hopefully a lot of these teams have good health and we can see an actual good playoff run against teams that aren't injured and things like that.
Agreed.
So, should be a really fun season. So coming up over the next couple weeks, we'll have a episode where we talk about what our standings predictions and some other predictions, maybe for awards and stuff as well. And then we're also we got a good suggestion to do an episode on young cores around the NBA. And when I got that question or suggestion, I thought Brady, you'd be the perfect person to have that discussion with, because you're very familiar with all kinds of other teams' rosters and stuff like that. So maybe we'll do like best young cores under the age of 25 or something, and see where we would rank Portland amongst those. And we have some other fun segments lined up, and just gonna have a good time talking some ball with Brady here, and hope you guys enjoy it. And we really appreciate everyone who tuned into this episode and who supports both Blazers Uprise and Crushables YouTube channels. And thanks for watching. I hope everyone has a good day. I don't have a sign off. Do you have a sign off you want to use?
I always go in my videos. I go, this Crushables. I'm saying peace. I guess we could do this is HoopsCrush, and we're saying peace.
For HoopsCrush, we'll see you next week.